A good vach. Shavua Tov. Hello, my lovely sisters and brothers. Okay, got that slow internet warning. Went away. No reason. Hopefully we're back. Okay, how's everybody doing? It's great to be with you on a Saturday night and starting the week off with some beautiful learning. Who's with us? Paul in Chicago, Melissa in Great Neck, James in Indianapolis, Gwen in Michigan, John in Maine, Nancy in North Carolina, Wayne in Arizona says peace. By the way, when it freezes, it's always temporary. So, just be patient. I'm monitoring it. I stop talking when it freezes and usually it comes back within like 5 seconds. God willing, eventually we'll get to the bottom of why that's happening. Shandora in the Bronx, Bill in mid-Missouri, Sharon in Lebanon, New Jersey, Yosef in Massachusetts, Carolyn in Raleigh, Yehuda in South Carolina, Keith in Johannesburg, South Africa. Welcome, Keith, from the other side of the world. Paula is loving the tunes. That was Joey Newcomb singing Mika Amcha Yisrael. Who is a nation like Israel? Your nation, Israel. Tom in PA, Heather in Kansas, Lucy in Minnesota. Paula frozen immediately. I know. Thank you. And we're back. And Fred in Miami and Frank in LA. Welcome. And Marjorie in Georgia. Tonight's episode of AT Daily is sponsored by Sammy Rana. Beautiful dedication in memory of his mom, Rubina Bokhari. Her name was Z. Called her Z. On her deathbed, my mom confirmed to me that we are Bokhari Jews whose history was hidden. An amazing story. So glad you connected in time and learned the truth of that, Sammy. And you're among your people. So may your mom's memory always be for a blessing. May she have an even higher level in the world of souls thanks to the merit of our learning tonight. And may you and all your loved ones be showered in blessings. And we say Amen. It's a great time to sponsor an episode of AT Daily during our annual campaign. The link will be in the credits. In the comments, donate.accidentaltalmudist.org. I think we're at 55%. Help us reach the finish line so we can build the AT app. I heard a beautiful story today. I forget it was a speaker at our Mincha Maariv over at Yavne by the third meal between Mincha and Maariv. And he told a story that he said he heard from a guy named Shimon in Florida, who lives in Davie, Florida. So Shimon reported that he and his wife live in an apartment building. And every Sunday they have a pattern. Okay, so they make pancakes and they sit and eat the pancakes in the kitchen. And they have a view out the window, and I guess, or maybe it's not an apartment, maybe it's just a house in Florida. And then they have a neighbor that they see through the kitchen window. And so Shimon's wife comments to him, look at that neighbor. Like, she doesn't know how to wash her laundry. They hang up the laundry to dry and it's still dirty. It's like, why doesn't this woman know how to wash laundry? Every Sunday they have the same conversation. They have the pancakes. They're sitting there. She looks out the window. Why doesn't she know how to wash the laundry? It's still dirty when they hang it to dry. For 3 years. One Sunday, they go in, the wife makes the pancakes, they sit down at the kitchen table, she looks out the window, and she says, the neighbor finally learned how to wash the laundry, it's clean out there. And Shimon says to his wife, for 3 years you've been saying that, and I finally went out and washed our window. Such a good lesson there. We're all so quick to judge others and what their mistakes are. Worth remembering. Sometimes what we need to do is to wash our own window, wash our own perception of what's going on. In fact, the Lubavitcher Rebbe says somewhere that, when you find fault in your fellow, something of that is a problem in you. The reason that you spotted that thing to judge it in someone else is because there's something in you that you need to work on that's related to that very same thing. You might be committing exactly the same thing that you're judging others for, or something related to it that requires examination. And when you examine yourself and work on that, you will set an example that will lead that other person to make that improvement in their own lives. Works much better than judging them and condemning and criticizing. Worth remembering. All right, where are we holding? This is Daf Chav Tes, page 29 here in Tractate Tainus, which has 31 pages, so we're almost at the end. Monday night, with God's help, we'll be making a siyum at our regular time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Have something, a drink to make a l'chaim, something to make a snack and make a bracha when we finish Tractate Tainus, and just read the first line of Tractate Megillah, our next tractate. Tainus is the 10th volume of the Talmud. We're on page 29, chapter 4, talking about the fasts that still stand today that commemorate tragedies in Jewish history. Before I forget, let me mention, no class tomorrow. We're not gonna have a class tomorrow. We'll do a double on Monday night. It's actually the perfect time to siyum. The last page of Tainus 31 is short, so we'll do 30 and 31 on Monday. And the reason is I'm going to see the Giants football game here in LA. I won't be back in time. Been a Giants fan all my life, but this is my first time actually that I get to see the New York Giants play. We're terrible this year. It's undoubtedly not going to go well for us against the Chargers, but I'll be there with friends, and it should be a great opportunity. And so I apologize in advance. I can't get home in time to teach the class tomorrow night, so it'll be a double daf on Monday. All right. We are on page 29. We're picking it up right near the top where we left off yesterday. The Mishnah taught on the 9th of Av, it was decreed, the 9th of the Hebrew month of Av, a summer month, a terrible, terrible date. This is the only major fast that we still observe, like Yom Kippur. But Yom Kippur was given to us in the Torah. The 9th of Av is this date in Jewish history where over and over again, terrible things happened on that date. And so we observe a full 25-hour fast. On the 9th of Av, what else happened? What happened on the 9th of Av? So we always associate the destruction of the temple. In fact, both temples were destroyed on the 9th of Av. But other terrible things happened on that day too. On the 9th of Av, it was decreed upon our ancestors that they would not enter the land of Israel, right? The children of Israel in the desert on the incident of the spies. They came, checked out the land, said it's beautiful, but it's inhabited by giants. We won't be able to enter there. The people panicked. It angered God after he did everything for them, bringing them out of Egypt, giving them the 10 Commandments, feeding them manna, and they think they can't conquer the land with God's help. He said, well, so you will die in the desert, and your children will enter the land. That incident happened on the 9th of Av. From where do we derive this? As it is written, Exodus 40:17, and it came to pass in the first month, in the second year after leaving Egypt, on the first day of the month, that the tabernacle was erected. And the master said, in the first year after leaving Egypt, Moses built the tabernacle. At the beginning of the second year, Moses erected the tabernacle and sent the spies. And it is written, and it came to pass in the second year, in the second month, on the 20th day of the month, that the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle of the testimony. That's Numbers 10:11. And it is further written, and they set forward from the mount of the Lord 3 days' journey. And Rabbi Chama bar Chanina said that very day they turned away from God by displaying their anxiety about leaving Mount Sinai. And it is written, and the mixed multitude that was among them, right, all these Egyptians who said, well, clearly these Jews got it going on, 10 plagues, etc. I'm going to join them. But they weren't really Jews nor attached to God. They had been pagan worshipers until the moment they left. So it was a mixed multitude. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting. That's how it's translated. The mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting. And the children of Israel also wept on their part and said, would that we were given flesh to eat, right? They're whining that they didn't have flesh, meat to eat, because they were eating manna every day. And it is written that the Jews ate the meat for an entire month. God got angry at them in that incident and said, you want flesh to eat? I'll give it to you till it comes out of your nostrils. And he sent, this cloud of birds. What was those little, little hens, right? Like mini chickens. And it is written that the Jews ate the meat for an entire month. And if one adds to the first 20 days, an additional 3 days journey, these are 23 days, and consequently the subsequent month of 29 days of eating meat ended on the 22nd of Sivan, the summer month of Sivan, about June more or less. After this, the Jews traveled to Hazeroth, where Miriam was afflicted with leprosy, and it is written, with Sara'as, right, the skin condition, not what we call leprosy. And Miriam was shut out of the camp for 7 days, and the people did not journey until Miriam was brought in again. That was in the episode where Miriam whispered to Aaron that, what's going on with Moses and his wife, and for gossiping, she broke out in Sara'as. Right? And so, wait, and Miriam was shut out of the camp for 7 days to be purified. Including these 7 days, they remained in Hazeroth until the 29th of Sivan before traveling on to Paran. And it is written immediately afterward, send you men that they may spy out the land of Canaan, the incident of the spies. This is how it started. And so this calculation is taught in a Baraisa. On the 29th of Sivan, Moses sent the spies, and it is written, and they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days, which means that they came back on the 9th of Av. And the Gemara asks, these are 40 days minus 1, the remaining days of the days of Sivan, the entire month of Tammuz, and 8 days of Av add up to a total of 39 days, not 40. And Abaye said, the month of Tammuz of that year was a full month of 30 days. Therefore, there are exactly 40 days until the 9th of Av. And this is alluded to in the following verse. As it is written, he has called an appointed time against me to crush my young men. That's Echa, Lamentations 1:15. And this indicates that an additional appointed day, i.e. a new moon, Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of a month, was added so that this calamity would fall specifically on the 9th day of Av. Why would God want this calamity to fall on the 9th of Av? Because God knows the future as well as the past and present. He knew that 9th of Av was destined to be a day of tragedies in Jewish history, and he wanted this tragedy to land on that day as well. And it is further written, and all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. And Rabbah said that Rabbi Yochanan said, that night was the night of the 9th of Av. And the Holy One, blessed be he, said to them, you wept for no reason on that night, and so I will therefore establish for you a tragedy over which there will be weeping in future generations. Not only will you people die in the desert rather than enter the promised land along with your 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, a servant of the king of Babylon, which was this Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard who served the king of Babylon, came into Jerusalem and he burnt the house of the Lord. We read that in Jeremiah 52:12 and 13. And it is taught in a Baraisa. It is impossible to say that the temple was burned on the 7th of Av, as it had already been stated in Jeremiah that it was destroyed on the 10th. And it is also impossible to say that the temple was burned on the 10th of Av, as it has already been stated that it was destroyed on the 7th, where in the Bible it says that in 2 Kings 25:8 and 9. How so? What actually happened? So on the 7th of Av, the Gentiles, the invaders, right, the army of Nebuchadnezzar, entered the sanctuary, and on the 7th and 8th there, and desecrated it by engaging in acts of fornication. And on the 9th day of Av, adjacent to nightfall, they set fire to the temple. This is the Temple of Solomon, the first temple. And it burned continuously the entire day, as it is stated, Jeremiah 4:6, woe unto us, for the day has declined, for the shadows of the evening are stretched out. And this verse is interpreted as a prophecy about the evening when the temple was burned. And this is what Rabbi Yochanan meant when he said, had I been alive in that generation, I would have established the fast only on the 10th of Av, because most of the sanctuary was actually burned on that day. And the sages who established the fast on the 9th of Av, how do they respond to this comment of Rabbi Yochanan? They maintain that it is preferable to mark the beginning of the tragedy. The temple began to burn on the 9th of Av, and so that's when we fast. And the Mishnah further taught that the temple was destroyed for the second time, also on the 9th of Av. And the Gemara asks, from where do we derive that the second temple was destroyed on this date? It's taught in a Baraisa. A meritorious matter is brought about on an auspicious day, and a deleterious matter on an inauspicious day. In other words, the 9th of Av, on which several tragedies had already occurred. And the sages said, when the temple was destroyed for the first time, that day was the 9th of Av. And it was the conclusion of Shabbos, and it was the year after a sabbatical year, and it was the week of the priestly watch of Jehoiarib, and the Levites were singing the song and standing on their platform. And what song were they singing? They were singing the verse, Psalm 94, and he brought upon them their own iniquity, and he will cut them off in their own evil. And the Levites did not manage to recite the end of the verse. The Lord God will cut them off before Gentiles came and conquered them. And likewise, the same happened when the second temple was destroyed. And the Mishnah teaches that Beitar was captured on the 9th of Av. And the Gemara explains that this is known by a and it is taught in a Baraisa when the wicked Turnus Rufus plowed the sanctuary. So this is much later than when the second temple was destroyed by Rome. That was in approximately the year 70. 65 years later, more or less, is when the Temple Mount was plowed over by the Roman governor of Jerusalem at that time, right? So the Temple Mount being plowed over is about 65 years later than when the second temple was destroyed. And that happened on the 9th of Av also. It is taught in a Baraisa. When the wicked Turnus Rufus plowed the sanctuary, a decree was issued against Rabban Gamliel for execution. A certain Roman officer came and stood in the study hall and said surreptitiously, "The man with the nose is wanted. The man with the nose is wanted." And this was a hint that Rabban Gamliel, who stood out in his generation like a nose protruding from a face, was sought by the government. In other words, they wanted the leader of the generation, and this Roman officer is calling him the man with the nose. So Rabban Gamliel heard this, and he went into hiding. The Roman officer went up to him in private and said to him, "If I save you from death, will you bring me into the world to come?" And Rabban Gamliel said to him, "Yes." So this story is actually similar to a lot of stories, hero stories like Nina tells, of righteous Gentiles who saved Jews from the Holocaust. So here we have a Roman officer who's going to save the Nasi of the generation, the leader of the Jewish people, the religious leader of the Jewish people, from a death warrant from the Roman governor. So the officer says to Rabban Gamliel, "Will you bring me into the world to come if I save you?" "Yes." So the officer said to Rabban Gamliel, "Swear to me." And Rabban Gamliel swore to him. The officer climbed up to the roof, fell, and died. Meaning he jumped off the roof and died. Why would he do that? How's that going to save Rabban Gamliel? The Romans had a tradition that when they issued a decree, like to kill someone, and one of their advisors died, they would cancel the decree. So the officer's sacrifice saved Rabban Gamliel's life. A bas kol, a divine voice, emerged from heaven and said, "That Roman officer is designated for the life of the world to come." And the sages taught when the temple was destroyed for the first time, many groups of young priests, Kohanim, gathered together with the temple keys in their hands. And they ascended to the roof of the sanctuary and said before God, "Master of the universe, since we did not merit to be faithful treasurers, meaning that this treasure, the temple, is being destroyed. We did not merit, to continue to guard it, right? To serve here. The temple's being destroyed. Since we did not merit to be faithful treasurers, and the temple is being destroyed, let the temple keys be handed to you. And they threw the temple keys upward, and a kind of palm of a hand emerged from heaven and received the keys from them. And the young priests jumped from the roof and fell into the fire of the burning temple. And the prophet Isaiah, right, who was alive at the time of the destruction of the first temple, the prophet Isaiah lamented over them, the burden of the valley of vision. What ails you now that you have all gone up to the roofs, you that were full of uproar, a tumultuous city, a joyous town? You are slain or not slain with the sword, nor dead in battle. And this is referring to the young priests who died by throwing themselves off the roof into the fire. And even with regard to the Holy One, blessed be He, it is stated, Isaiah 22:5, for it is a day of trouble and of trampling and of confusion for the Lord of hosts in the valley of vision, a shouting over walls and a cry to the mountain. And this verse indicates that God shouts over the destruction of the temple. It angered God. It upset God. It needed to be done in God's eyes, but it was painful for God. The Mishnah teaches that from when the month of Av begins, one decreases acts of rejoicing. So we've been talking about historical calamities that befell the Jewish people on the 9th of Av. Now we're sort of switching gears a little bit and talking about how we observe Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, today, or at least, since it was decreed by our sages. What are the practices that we do or refrain from doing on the 9th of Av? So the Mishnah teaches that when the month of Av begins, one decreases acts of rejoicing. And Rav Yehuda, the son of Rav Shmuel bar Shelat, said in the name of Rav, just as when Av begins, one decreases rejoicing, so too when the month of Adar begins, one increases rejoicing, right? Adar is the month that contains Purim. Rav Papa said, therefore, in the case of a Jew who has litigation with a Gentile, let him avoid his opponent in the month of Av when the Jew's fortune is bad, and he should make himself available in Adar when the fortune of the Jews is good. And the Gemara mentions a couple of other statements in the name of the same sages mentioned above. First, it cites a verse that is referring to the Babylonian exile. To give you a future and a hope, Jeremiah 29:11. And Rav Yehuda, the son of Rav Shmuel bar Shelat, said in the name of Rav, these are palm trees and garments of linen, which are long-lasting and bring benefit as long as they exist. And with regard to Isaac's comment about Jacob, and he said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed, in the incident of Jacob and Esau appearing before their blind father Isaac for a blessing. Rav Yehuda, the son of Rav Shmuel bar Shelat, said in the name of Rav, this smell that Isaac talks about was like that of a field of apple trees. We're on the B side of 29. The Mishnah taught during the week in which the 9th of Av occurs, it is prohibited to cut one's hair and to launder clothes. Rav Nachman said they taught that it is prohibited only to launder and to wear clean clothes before the 9th of Av. However, if one wishes to launder garments and set them aside, this is permitted. And Rav Shesha said, even to launder them and to set them aside is prohibited. Rav Shesha said, know that I am correct, as the launderers of Rav's household were idle during the week that contained the 9th of Av, which shows that laundering in and of itself is prohibited. Rav Hamnuna raised an objection against Rav Nachman's ruling from the Mishnah. On Thursday, these actions are permitted in deference to Shabbos. We read that in the Mishnah that we're now elaborating on. And the Gemara clarifies, to which actions is this referring? If we say that it is permitted to launder and to wear clothing immediately, what deference to Shabbos is there in wearing a garment on Thursday? Rather, it must mean that one can wash and set aside the garment until Shabbos. And this washing is permitted only on Thursday. However, during the rest of the week, it is prohibited. And the Gemara rejects this contention. Actually, the Mishnah permits one to launder and wear a garment immediately on Thursday. And this ruling is referring to one who has only one shirt. This laundering is also considered in deference to Shabbos because if one does not wash his shirt now on Thursday, he will not. We're talking about when Tisha B'Av lands on Friday, right? So if Tisha B'Av is on Friday, so you can't launder your clothes on Friday, but you need to get ready for Shabbos. So when are you going to wash your clothes, especially if you only have one shirt? So you need to do it the day before, on Thursday. And the problem is, but they're saying you can't launder your clothes the whole week that contains Tisha B'Av. So they're saying, okay, but in deference to Shabbos, you can. And actually, the Mishnah permits one to launder and wear a garment immediately on Thursday. But the ruling is referring to one who has only one shirt. And this is considered in deference to Shabbos because if one does not wash the shirt now on Thursday, he will not have the opportunity to do so later. As Rabbi Asi said, that Rabbi Yochanan said, one who has only one shirt is permitted to launder it on the intermediate days of a festival when it is normally prohibited to do so. And it was also stated that Rabbi Binyamin said, that Rabbi Lazar said, they taught that it is prohibited only to launder and wear immediately. However, if one launders to set it aside, it's permitted. So that discussion about when it's permitted to launder and when it's not goes on for a while. Skip a couple paragraphs. If the 9th of Av occurs on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, on the days before the 9th of Av, laundering is prohibited. But after the fast, it's permitted. So if the 9th of Av occurs on a Friday, it's permitted to launder on Thursday in deference to Shabbos. And if for whatever reason one did not launder on Thursday of that week, he is permitted to launder on Friday, even though it's a Tisha B'Av, after Mincha, the afternoon prayer, despite the fact that it is Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. And Abaye said, and Abaye and some say Rav Acha bar Yaakov, cursed those who did this. You should have prepared and not be laundering your clothes on Tisha B'Av when we're fasting and crying and lamenting for the destruction of the temple. The Gemara resumes its citation of the Brisa. If the 9th of Av occurs on a Monday or on a Thursday, 3 people are called to read from the Torah, as on a regular week, and one of them recites the portion from the prophets. If the 9th of Av occurs on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday, because we have Torah reading in the morning services on Monday and Thursday, but if Tisha B'Av occurs on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday, so then one individual reads the Torah, and the same individual recites the portion from the prophets. And Rabbi Yosei says, actually 3 people are called to read, no matter what day of the week it is, and one of them recites the portion from the prophets for the 9th of Av. In any case, the Brisa apparently presents a conclusive refutation of the opinion of Shmuel, as it clearly states that one is permitted to launder his clothes during the weekdays after the 9th of Av. Now, Shmuel could have said to you, well, this is a dispute between Tanaim, as it is taught in Brisa in the case of the 9th of Av that occurs on Shabbos, and so too on the eve of the 9th of Av that occurs on Shabbos, one need not reduce the amount of food he eats. Rather, he may eat and drink as much as he requires and put on his table a meal, even like that of King Solomon in his time. And it is prohibited to cut one's hair and to launder from the new moon until after the fast. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says these activities are prohibited throughout the entire month. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says they are prohibited only during that week of the 9th of Av. And it is taught in another Brisa, and one must observe the rites of mourning from the new moon, the new month of Av, when it begins, until the fast. That's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says these activities are prohibited the whole month of Av. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says they are prohibited only during that week. And these Barisas show that there are at least 2 Tanaim, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, who prohibit certain activities even after the fast, like Shmuel. And Rabbi Yochanan said, and all 3 of these Tanaim derived their opinions from one verse from which they drew different conclusions. As it is written, Hosea 2:13, and I will cause all her mirth to cease, her festival, her new moon, and her Shabbos. The one who said these activities are prohibited from the new moon until after the fast, Rabbi Meir, derives from the phrase, her festival, that acts of mirth and rejoicing are prohibited from the beginning of the month, the new moon, which is considered like a festival. And the one who said that these activities are prohibited for the whole month learns this from the phrase, her new moon. And the one who said that the acts of rejoicing are prohibited during the entire week of the 9th of Av derives this from the phrase, her Shabbos, which also means a week. I'm almost done, so get the comments in. With regard to the law itself, Rava said, the law is in accordance with the opinion of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. And Rava also said that the halacha, the law, is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir. The Gemara remarks, and both of these rulings are intended as a leniency. And it is necessary for Rava to state both rulings. For had he taught us only that the law is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir, I would have said that the mourning practices are obligatory even from the beginning of the month, as maintained by Rabbi Meir. Therefore, Rava teaches us that the law is in accordance with the opinion of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, that the restrictions of mourning do not apply until the week of the 9th of Av. And had he taught us only that the law is in accordance with the opinion of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, I would have said that the prohibitions apply even after the fast, until the end of the week. So Rava teaches us the law is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir, that these prohibitions apply only until the 9th of Av itself and not afterward. And that's why we call it the 9 days, where the heavy mourning practices extend from the beginning of Av until the 9th of Av, but not after that. And of course, we've talked elsewhere that if the 9th of Av falls on Shabbos, then the fast is observed on the 10th of Av, on Sunday, because we don't fast on Shabbos. Okay, let's see if you've got comments or questions. Ooh, Sharon. How clever of you to make the transmission so bad that we are clamoring for the app. Believe me, I did not do that on purpose, and it's killing me. As Bill said, gremlins. Like, I've done the same thing, the same way, for hundreds and hundreds of episodes. Oh, tonight is episode 700. So big congratulations and mazel tov to everybody who's been learning with us, especially who've been learning with us from the beginning. Wow, 700 daily classes that we've shared together. Occasionally, we have a day off, but then we make it up the following night. That's what's happening tomorrow. No class tomorrow, Sunday, but we'll have a double on Monday night, and that happens to be the Siyum. Good night for a double daf because the last page, 31, is short. So double daf, Monday night with a Siyum, and then we'll go into tractate Megillah. The whole Megillah is our next tractate. PK, when do you think that the app will be available? All right, so we've only had preliminary discussions with our friend Erez, who supervised the building of our website, and he has supervised the design aspect. He doesn't do the actual app developing, he does the design, but he's done that for other apps based on websites. So we'll be working with him. It's going to take a while. First, we have to raise the money so that it's going to be possible, and we know that we have enough money to do it. It's expensive to build an app. Then we'll figure out exactly, what functions we want that app to have, and we'll sort of storyboard that. And what we'll probably try to do is launch the app even before, everything is perfect and all the various channels are available. We want to get it up and going, especially for the purpose of the AT Daily. But it'll take some months. It'll take some time. Hopefully it's going to happen, begin and end that process in 2022. But first we got to raise the money, because if we don't, complete our annual campaign, we're not going to have what to build the app with. Carolyn, Isaiah mentions how God will save with a strong hand. Yes. Bill, I haven't been here the whole 700. I took up with you guys a couple months in March of 2020 when, for some reason, I found myself needing a nice hobby. I love it. We're so glad you're here, Bill. Helena, how many are there still left? I know Helena's been here since day one. I remember Helena tuning in from Finland on day one. Right? Day one, it was like so raw. It was just my phone, like the Facebook app on my phone. It was vertical. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to do this. And then that night, we had the Siyum at UCLA, where they actually profiled Accidental Talmudist, just in terms of not our Daf Yomi shir, but everything else that we've been doing. But at any rate, so this is episode 700 of 2,711, right? So we have 2,011 episodes to go. It's a 7.5-year cycle. So it's going to end somewhere in the middle of 2027, right? That's where we're headed. Started in 2020. We're in 2021. We're headed toward 2027. Roddy Munoz. So should we only use the Korn edition of the Masechta and not the Art Scroll? No, whichever one you enjoy. My first trip through Daf Yomi, I used the Art Scroll, and now I'm using the Korn, and they're both great, and they have different advantages. The Art Scroll includes more commentary by different commentators in its footnotes. And so it's actually like, it takes 71 volumes or 72 to make the Art Scroll. The Koren is a little bit more compact and includes commentary by Rav Steinsaltz, but not so. He refers to other commentaries, but it doesn't have such extensive translation in English of other commenters. But what I like about the Koren is it's got the illustrations when possible. It's got more language notes about translation. But what I especially like is it has the halacha, right? That so often in the Talmud, we're discussing the law, and it's often, a law that we still follow today, like how we follow Shabbos or how we eat kosher or, the laws of mourning or the laws of a wedding, etc. And the sages will argue back and forth on a point, and then, they kind of leave it there. Or even they make a ruling, but the ruling of the Mishnah might not be the same ruling that we follow today. And so whenever they're discussing a point of law, the nice thing about the Koren is it tells you, and the law is, what we follow today and what different communities follow. That particular feature is in the Koren, not in the Art Scroll. But both have brilliant translations, and they're both great. And so what I would recommend is if possible, check out a volume of each for a particular tractate and see, which you find more inspiring and comfortable for you. All right, my friends, that's what I've got for us tonight. Again, no class tomorrow. See you for the Siyum of Tractate Taanis on Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific, our regular time. Have a great night.